I've lived here all my life and plan to stay, so I wanted to have all this at my fingertips so that I didn't have to run out to LA back and forth in New York.
It was a joy, you know, just to be in the studio with him at Sunset Sound.
The most sleep we ever got was like 4 hours. Just when you thought it was safe to get in your bed, you get a knock on your door.
Sleep deprivation. Everybody around him didn't sleep. They just took naps.
An act of will is what kept me going. It was rare for me to have a day off.
Me and Dr. Susan Rogers cataloged a lot of hours in the studio for this guy.
There was nowhere else I'd rather be. I drank a lot of water, and I loved the work we were doing like a good soldier.
That's right. You're in the trenches.
And we're recording all of that stuff at this house. This is the Galpin house that we lived in. That I built for us. I couldn't stand being, like, where are you? Like, what's up?
Prince, like I said, he was constantly in the studio, man. He was one of a kind. That was my man, like 100 grand.
There was this model. Her name was Devin DeBosquet from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. She was a Playboy model. She was dating Prince at the time.
We met through Playboy. Wally Safford introduced us.
It was only two great ones. It was Ali, then it was Wally. Ali was the greatest, and here I come with the latest.
Wally Safford was his backup dancer, also his bodyguard.
Dance security on stage and off stage. I ain't let the jelly get on the jam.
Purple Rain came out. I was shooting my centerfold. Everyone was comparing me to Apollonia. Playboy thought to get a picture with Prince.
The publicist informed us, "I'm sorry, but Prince does not take photos." A man in a purple rain jacket came running up to me, introducing himself as Wally.
It's me again. Oft imitated, never duplicated.
"Are you a model?" and asked to see the portfolio I was carrying, and he quickly took my portfolio and said he would be right back. What if he just took my photos and he's not coming back? Just as I said that, Wally appeared and said, "Prince would like to meet you." Prince wanted us to come to the concert that night.
Well, see, Prince was the pimp. I was the pimp. Sister. Don't get it twisted or discombobulated.
That wasn't my first rodeo. That horse rode, that cowboy been through. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't expect next day for him to call me. I was getting to know him while he was on tour. Prince said, "This song is dedicated to the girl with the red dress on." Oh my God.
Everybody's talented at something. That's what makes the world go round.
In Brooke, we went from Purple Gang security to the dancing security. I didn't get it twisted, I just got to remember what lane you need to stay in. I hadn't been on the stage before. Brother was very creative. The Syracuse show, Carrier Dome is pretty big. It seemed like hundreds of thousands of people. That stage was huge. He created that whole Baby I'm a Star. We came out with Sheila E.'s band and The Revolution, and you got Eddie M on the piano and the saxophone. That stage was real busy. Sheila on the percussion, and he put that Latin spin on it, that Latin sauce on it. You know how you do, put it in the pot and cook it and get it while it's hot. He had it jumping.
Revolution, I knew more about them than they knew about me. They saw me all the time. Wendy and Lisa were going, "Who is she?"
Controversy, that's what my brother lives for.
The great Casanova, Rudolph Valentino, he was all that rolled up in one. And he loved beautiful women.
But I didn't have a problem with the Revolution. I heard that they didn't want us in the group, and they didn't appreciate us being in the group.
But see, they don't know why we were in the band from the get-go. Prince told me. He told me this out of his own mouth. The NAACP was coming down on him for not having enough multicolored people working for him. That's why he added me, Jerome, Brooks, and Miko to the Revolution. Brother was so elusive. He slipped his way out of stuff like an eel through seaweed. I let the baker bake the bread. I'm just like Curtis Mayfield moving on up.
Hey, Wally.
He added a little more chocolate,
Boy Scout motto, always come prepared. We were ready.
So I will become the dancing security.
He was so funny.
Ain't nothing but a muffin, got a whole lot of butter to go.
And he was so good at hauling, talking, sharing.
Hey, this is adult swim.
Steve told me if they had met me a year before, it would have been me in Purple Rain. His father was from Louisiana. He never met a playmate from Louisiana before. He liked talking to me and he felt special. He asked me if I would sit with his dad at his concerts. I decided to call him for once. We came to the phone. "Devin, I can't see you anymore because I live with someone now.
It certainly wasn't the old crew of women. It was different. And I'd have gladly stayed on if Denise and all the others stayed because I knew who we all were.
At that point, different women who came into the camp were like, fuck it, I want to be famous. I'll take my clothes off. I'll do whatever.
Karen Marie Thomas faces Devin Vasquez. Christopher and Snowy tackle Pat and Cat.
6 months after we broke up, I was on Star Search, and they wanted to use Baby I'm a Star. He doesn't let his music on television. And I said, well, I know him, I can ask. And so I asked Steve Fargnoli, and he asked Prince, and Prince said yes.
Search. With your host, Ed McMahon.
This year's 1986 Grand Champions will appear in person at the Tropicana Hotel in Atlantic City on March 13th through the 15th.
Thank you, Devin.
She was on Star Search with me, Pat and Cat, in the final.
Christopher and Snowy or Pat and Cat? Christopher and Snowy. A little closer. Only one person can win. These are two of the most beautiful women I have ever seen. Devin Vasquez.
Prince watched me win Star Search and congratulated me. I felt bad that she didn't win the $100,000.
Devin said, Cat, I feel so bad. I want you to come to a dinner at Prince's house in Beverly Hills for his dad.
Prince's manager, Steve Fargnoli, would say, your friend's in town. Do you want to go visit? He was in town, and Mr. Nelson is coming into town, too.
Steve told me Prince and Susannah had broken off their engagement.
He rented the Menendez house, the house that they killed their parents in.
So after we left his home in Beverly Hills and went to the club.
And I invited Kat. I knew she really wanted to meet Prince. That night, we all went dancing, the new nightclub.
Stephen Fargnoli, Devin Vasquez. I invited Mr. Vertigo. I was very quiet. I was very shy.
I kept telling Steve, make Prince pay attention to Kat. I'm going to get up and dance with her.
Prince started looking.
And finally, he asked Kat to dance.
And I'm jacking my body. About 3 songs, I sat down. He whispered to Stephen, she's mine. He asked me, do you have a manager? Do you have an agent? No. After I met him, so I go to his house. And he wasn't there. He was in Minneapolis. Prince asked me to go to his house and pick up this dress. Okay. Calls me and says, you have a flight. I want you to bring the dress to Minneapolis.
Next thing I know, Kat's in the band. She had to go to Minneapolis and rehearse.
Prince was teaching me to play pool and listening to Luther Vandross. You know, Luther Vandross is gay, Devin. Well, some people think you're gay, Prince. Well, we know that's not true. That night and spent the night with him. We kissed like high school kids and made mad, passionate love.
I remember meeting Susannah. They were engaged to be married or something like that.
I just got to stay away from drama. It's coming, but hey.
Prince was like trying to figure out how to fit me into his life. The next thing I knew, I was under Cavallo, Ruffalo, and Fargnoli, his management company.
I felt sort of owned by him in a lot of ways, and I just didn't understand where that was going. Like, nobody should be alone this much.
Forever in my life. I said, who's it for? Did you write this for somebody? No, I'm keeping it for myself.
He must have told me 10,000 times, I'm married to my music.
My father used to say things like, don't ever get married.
Prince, he wrote songs about people in his life.
There's a lot of them. Nothing Compares to You, If I Was Your Girlfriend, Empty Room, Crystal Ball. Can't think offhand other than those right this second.
He was engaged to Susannah at that time. He was exclusive with her at that time. I think I'm probably safe in saying that Adore was for her and about her.
And I really think he wrote the song Adore about me. My Playboy came out in November of 1986. He wrote the song in November of 1986. The words, the lyrics was like, in a word, you were sex. In a word, Playboy. He liked having this shroud of mystery.
The Beautiful Ones.
He made it clear to me that he actually hadn't written The Beautiful Ones about Susannah Melvin. Well, you know, do you want him or do you want me? Like, that was specifically for that scene about Morris Day and Apollonia. Who knows if even that's true?
We were working on this whole batch of songs through 1986, and that included some of my favorites like Sexual Suicide and Splash, and some of these great things.
We started collecting all those songs. He had 6 or 7 of them. He had sung with that higher voice. He didn't want to throw them away because they were good songs. I think that's where he was putting together the Camille album.
He was so creative.
He had so many albums coming out, I can't remember which was which. Jesus.
I felt optimistic now that we were both single.
It started getting a little too much, and I got my own place in Minneapolis. I left the house. I'm always like, I can't do this anymore.
So I go to his house, I get the dress. He flies me to Minneapolis. Come there, I put on the dress, put on the cross, the necklace, put me the glasses on, give me the peach guitar, and his hairdresser do my hair like his.
Okay, let's get started. Chubby Curls is made with all natural ingredients.
I never thought that I would actually be on the same stage with him. I never thought that I would even get to meet him. So when all this happened, I just accepted it and said, thank God, this is great, because this is my dream come true.
I didn't know Prince had that much faith in me. I had no faith in myself. I was not personally trained, nothing. But I had faith that I can dance. The Sign of the Times album was called Crystal Ball or something at the time. And it was a 3-album thing recorded by Prince and the Revolution. Susannah was there playing the Sunshine. We are not afraid to. That is actually Susannah singing.
Him tracking, changing things up, doing the vocal, me go and do the vocal. And I was there with him, and I was in awe of it. A soul experience. Crystal Ball itself went through many incarnations and took a long time.
Apparently, the dress was made for Susannah, Wendy's twin sister. It's that peach dress, with the guitar. She was supposed to have that dress, but I don't know what happened. We were rehearsing for the tour. The new band, we were just learning it. This album was still being recorded.
Next morning, Prince told me he would be going to Tramp. He would see me later in the week. He was going to the club without me. I didn't like it.
We were out at a club at the bottom of the Beverly Center. Guy comes up to me, Prince wants you to come to his house. But Jody had never met him, and Jermaine never met him, and bring them, they can come too. They're kind of tripping, and I'm kind of like, and why? So we go to, some hills in Beverly Hills. We get to this house, and Prince comes, he opens up the door. You got to hear this album. It was a 4-album set at the time.
It was a 3-album thing.
So we go upstairs, and he starts playing me Sign of the Times.
It's called Crystal Ball.
Amazing. I'm sitting on pillows, and we're just listening to stuff. When he played Dorothy Parker, I had to stop and say, okay, that's one of the dopest songs I've ever heard. That's beyond funky.
When the album came in, I was having a very difficult time getting through it. There was a meeting that took place in Bob Cavallo's office with Steve Farnelli, Bob, and Joe, and Mo, and myself.
Mo, who was the chairman, Lenny Warnaker, the president. They were dealing with management. Mo was a phenomenal executive. He trusted his department heads.
They were talking about trying to get it down to 1 album. Finally, I just said, you guys, there's no way that he's going to take 3 albums and condense it into 1.
Before I made any records at all, I used to play acoustic guitar. I wrote really long pieces of music. And when I would think of playing music, I felt that when I did a record, that's what I would do.
From the beginning, I was trying to get him to shorten his song.
See, part of the job of the record label is to help guide the artist.
The A&R people at record labels have the attention of a gnat. So I wanted some nursery rhyme, and that was repulsive to Prince.
My first manager, for one, he'll take credit and say that he taught me another way. One thing I got from him was that he wanted me to get hit.
People who are as talented as he is want to display their full talent. And I'm like, no, we got to grab them. And he said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, think of the Beatles' first song that we all got to know. I want to hold your hand. It's practically a nursery rhyme. It's deep, but it's a nursery rhyme. And we need to get over the quickest way possible with these record labels. Give me a 3-minute song, max 2.5 minutes if possible.
And so he keeps going and he plays it and he goes on. And this other song is Dorothy Parker. I think Housequake was on it. Yeah, The Cross. And I'm blown away. But
you'd be surprised how many people try and talk me out of that.
That's just too much. You should cut it down a little bit because that's way too much stuff.
Let's do a double album. He can get away with that easily. And I gave them the artistic reasons why it would be impossible to win that battle. And why battle? They wanted me to talk to them about it. So I said, all right, but
don't say anything to him. I'll pick my time and my place.
You know, I'm a musician. I live for playing, creating songs.
I said, first of all, you know, you just released an album. I said, you might want to give the people. He said, I can't.
I really wasn't so concerned about that.
You know, I gotta get stuff out there. As soon as I write, I gotta get it out.
Aretha Franklin, every 3 months there's a new album. James Brown, every 3 months there's a new single and album. I don't think censorship should be inflicted.
Went home, it was about 11 o'clock. Get a phone call from Steve Fernoli. Prince wants to talk to you. Steve, did you tell him? He said, well, I had to. He knew there was a meeting. So I called him at the Sunset Sound, got him immediately. He picks up the phone. I hear you don't like my album. That's not true. I think that it needs to be edited.
Bob Cavallo, Ruffalo, and Fernoli did an amazing job. Prince had issues with him, but he operated under those issues.
Friction that I had with the record company that was based in relationship in general. You know, it's hard to work with somebody who you're absolutely sure they hate your guts. Some of those people will speak the contrary, but you go by and hear what you were feeling.
I was just trying to get him to think about what's best for the record. He didn't say much, and then at the very end, he just said, I'm going to Minneapolis, and hung up.
He pulled me into the studio. He said, you go back and tell them they need to release my music.
The next morning, I called Bob Cavallo, and we decided we would put the album together with what we thought were the stronger songs. And he said, what are you talking about? Fly to Minneapolis. He's been up all night editing the album.
He wound up cutting it down a little bit.
So Prince narrowed it down to 2 LPs.
And that, of course, then became a big bone of contention to him.
Oh, absolutely. Because we have to answer to a boss, man didn't come to Earth like that. Man came to Earth for recreation, which means recreation, and to recreate love. You can't do that when you're constantly angry, when you're constantly being held back.
I couldn't stand it. I couldn't stand being away from my sister. I can't do it. Just had enough. And it wasn't 6 months or 8 months after that I just said, I have to go. I can't be here anymore. I can't do this. And I left. I packed up my things and I left. I went back to moved back in with Wendy and Lisa. And he spent the better part of a good couple months trying to get me to come home. And I just was like, I can't do it. You'd say, just can't stand losing. I couldn't be alone anymore. I couldn't stand being alone.
Susannah had just left. It was finally over. They had gone back and forth, but engagement was over. He had me come to his home, so I set everything up. He began recording. So it was a piano ballad. Amazing.
Like I said, he ain't did too many songs like Wally.
Starts with him speaking to Wally.
Well, you know, that's self-explanatory.
He's saying, Wally, where'd you get those glasses?
Well, actually, the song was originally Billy, Where You Get Those Glasses. The reason why he changed it to my name, I have no idea.
The story continues, and he's talking to Wally, and he's saying, yeah, my girlfriend just left, so I'm going to meet somebody new.
Check it out, Wally. I'm on the prowl.
The chorus lyric is, oh my la-dee-da, oh my la-dee-da. He said, isn't it funny how the word melody is kind of like the word malady? So anyway, we finished, and I'm thinking, it's so great, I love this. Wow. He made his cassette, and then he said, okay, now erase it.
I mean, you can't change history. You can't change it. It was written.
He was trying to convince all of us that we shouldn't have an outside world. We should be like him and live in Paisley Park.
I think he knew there was just no way I was going to live in Minneapolis. I had just moved from Chicago. My career was here. The weather agreed with me. He did not like that I moved to L.A. He was such a control freak. He could not control me. He came to accept it.
When Paisley Park was being built, we had a conversation where he actually said, could you imagine if we all lived close by? Meaning the band and the crew and management. And just think, every time we wanted to shop, we could just go to the nearest mall and have them close it down. And we would just have them all do ourselves. And he was being dead serious. It was like we should have this insulated environment where all of us, and then we'll get somebody to home teach all our kids. You know, it was like, it really was dead out of Howard Hughes. It was scary.
It's a time period where you figure out where you're going, completely judged where you've come from, and laid out all the pieces, and you know exactly what it all means.